Hey guys, in this month's top 5, I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite literary retellings. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. This is going to be my 5 personal favorite books that are some form of a literary retelling, and I do mean a literary retelling based off of another book. I am not talking about like a fairy tale retelling or a mythology retelling. In the past, I have already done some top 5s on those. I'll probably add them here at the very end of the video if you are interested in those. So yeah, this is strictly like retellings based off of another book. So yeah, I managed to find 5 that I personally really like and enjoy, so let's get going. At number 5, The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins, and this is a modern day retelling of Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. And you guys, I love me some Jane Eyre. So yeah, I was pretty intrigued about this being a modern adaptation, a modern retelling of Jane Eyre. And it's definitely, in some ways, despite it taking place in a modern day setting, it's actually very, very, very close in terms of to the other book. There's a lot about this book that runs very, very similar. To the point that certain things in this book, if you have read Jane Eyre, there's going to be certain things and plot points that happen in this book that are not going to be shocking and they're not going to be surprising. You're going to be multiple steps ahead of your main character. So yeah, that can kind of be a little frustrating with a retelling like this because it does run pretty parallel to the original story. It just takes place in a modern day setting and certain things are just modernized, you know. But yeah, this follows a young woman. Is her name even Jane? Yes, it's Jane. I forgot. I couldn't remember what her name was if they even kept it as Jane. But yeah, it follows a young woman named Jane, and she's a dog walker, and yeah, she runs into a guy named Eddie Rochester, and he's recently widowed and whatnot. And yeah, she kind of gets her way into his good graces by kind of being a dog walker for him, for his dog. And yeah, she figures out there's like something going on about his previous wife. There's some sort of mystery there with his previous wife. If you know Jane Eyre, you know what all that's about. So yeah, I mean, there's not really too much for me to actually say in terms of the plot. The plot is identical, like I said, just in a modern setting. I did really like this interpretation. I like what Rachel Hawkins did with this. What I think I really liked was the fact that none of these characters are likable. Even Jane herself, you guys. Absolutely none of these characters are likable. They're all kind of despicable in their own way. They're all hiding something dark and tragic in their lives, you know? But yeah, this is a nice short book. I think it helps. Like if you've struggled with Jane Eyre in the past, you know, I mean, I definitely recommend you read the original Jane Eyre. But if you've kind of struggled with it in the past, or if you want to try to get into it, maybe it'll help get into something like this, you know, maybe to help get into something like this that can kind of help you maybe get through Jane Eyre or kind of build up the courage to finally read Jane Eyre, you know. Yeah, this was a pretty good time of a book. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. Rachel Hawkins' writing was full of suspense and tension, unease. It was great. At number 4, Dracula My Love by Siri James, based off of the classic Dracula by Bram Stoker. I am also a sucker for Dracula, and I love Dracula retellings if they're done well. This, kind of like the Wife Upstairs book, this is not a modern retelling though. This still takes place in a historical fiction setting, like set during the same time period as the original classic Dracula. But yeah, the events of this book, they follow pretty much parallel to the same events going on in the book, but being told through the perspective of Mina Harker. Mina Harker being the wife of Jonathan Harker. Jonathan, who originally he goes off to Dracula's castle to kind of deal with some technical things kind of there, you know. But yeah, he kind of succumbs to the lure and power of Dracula. He comes back kind of a changed man. And yeah, Dracula eventually comes to London where he starts, you know, killing some folk. And yeah, our main protagonists are after Dracula, trying to kill and destroy Dracula from just killing other people. So yeah, this is totally through the point of view of Mina Harker, And what Siri James does is she kind of does certain things kind of through a different lens and perspective. Like, what if Mina actually fell in love with Dracula behind the scenes and no one knew about it, you know? So yeah, this is kind of a bit of a romance between Mina and Dracula, if that's your sort of thing. If you've watched other adaptations in the past and you've always been like, oh, I love Dracula and Mina together, this is like your fan fiction dream right here. I really like this book. I went into it thinking, oh, this is probably going to be maybe not that great, maybe kind of stupid, you know, because I picked it up thinking I like the premise, let's see how it goes. And I ended up being pretty pleasantly surprised with this book and the direction it took and how it told the story and how it incorporated this love story between Mina and Dracula, because it totally worked while still retaining what you love about Bram Stoker's original, you know, not really changing too terribly much, you know, just kind of changing the fact that Mina and Dracula have some sort of involvement behind the scenes that you don't get to see in the original book, you know. But yeah, this was a great time of book. I really liked it. It was fun and interesting, sexy, captivating. I need to have a reread of this because I can't quite remember exactly how it ends. At number 3, The Spellbook of Katrina Van Tassel by Alison Palumbo. And this is a retelling of Washington Irving's Sleepy Hollow. I am also a sucker for Sleepy Hollow, you guys. I freaking love Sleepy Hollow. Kind of one of the best short stories, you know. Um, uh, this is, it's all about the relationship between Katrina Van Tassel and Ichabod Crane. Yeah, guys, which is just so lovely and wonderfully done in this book. I totally love them together. And yeah, as you know, with the story of Sleepy Hollow, you have the Headless Horseman. Is he real? Is he superstition? What's going on there? This book is definitely kind of exploring that whole thing of the superstition. Is there supernatural shenanigans going on? Does this horseman really exist or not? And yeah, Katrina and Ichabod, they get together. They have wonderful, lovely chemistry. They're forming their future together. But then he goes missing at some point, and it has something to do with the Headless Horseman. So Katrina spends this whole book trying to figure out what happened to my love, Ichabod Crane. I had to find him. And yeah, this is kind of just a wonderful kind of mystery sort of book, like a historical mystery, a nice little romance to it, and yeah, really fleshing out the character of Katrina Van Tassel, because you know, in the original story by Washington Irving, she's just there to strictly be the love interest, you know, and there's just nothing there to her, no depth or nuance. And this book really allows Katrina to be fascinating and interesting, and give her a voice and give her opinions, and yeah, for her to be really involved into this narrative, and for her to kind of be more proactive into this story with the Headless Horseman and whatnot. I freaking loved this book. It's definitely one of those I would love to reread this again, because there's some wonderful, unique twists and turns that happen in this that are just absolutely devastating. I loved it. At number 2, Wicked, the Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire, and this is a retelling of L. Frank Baum's Oz stories. So yeah, I have this first book in my hand, but Gregory Maguire did kind of spin this out into like a 4-book series, and there's even a sequel series that has been coming out in the last couple years that I need to get my hands on and start reading. But yeah, this book, you guys, Wicked. Wow, I love this book. It's absolutely incredible. Um, it's like, forget everything you thought you knew about Oz, you know, the world of Oz and all the wacky characters that inhabit it. Gregory Maguire just takes his own wonderful, unique spin and perspective on this world and on these characters, and really just fleshes them out in such wonderful ways. And yeah, don't get me started on just the world building. His world building is spectacular, and he really inhabits it with wonderful characters and places. It's truly remarkable what he kind of does on his first book. And yeah, out of all the books in the Wicked series, even though I do like all the books, Wicked is definitely the far superior of the whole series. And yeah, you don't really need to read all the other books in the series. If this is the only one you ever experience, I think that's perfectly fine. You're not really missing out too terribly much. And yeah, as I said, this is about the Wicked Witch of the West. And, you know, with the books and with the very popular TV, or with a very popular movie and whatnot, the Wicked Witch has always been seen as this evil green villainess, tracking down Dorothy and trying to kill Dorothy and her friends, take those ruby slippers. This is really kind of fleshing out the Wicked Witch, that she wasn't always bad. She wasn't always wicked. That there's a lot more to her. What exactly turned her wicked? What's the loss and the heartbreak and the sacrifices that she had to go through? And yeah, why does she go after Dorothy? This is just a really wonderful retelling of the Oz stories and whatnot. Really making you fall in love with the Wicked Witch of the West, who in this, her name is Elphaba. And yeah, there's a very popular musical that was adapted from this book. And you know what? I have never seen the musical, you guys. I have heard a couple of the songs from the musical, but yeah, I've never seen it. I've never listened to the full soundtrack. I do think there's a movie adaptation coming out in the next couple years or so, which I'm kind of looking forward to that, because that'd be a nice way for me to consume the musical since I'll never ever get to see it done on a stage. But yeah, I highly recommend this book if you love the musical. If you love the story of Oz and Dorothy and all that, if you like a good villain origin story, this is definitely the type of book for you. And at number 1, What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, based off of Edgar Allan Poe's short story, The Fall of the House of Usher. Dear God, you guys, I love all things Edgar Allan Poe. The Fall of the House of Usher is one of my all-time favorite short stories. And this book, wow, 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 wow. I have read a couple other Fall of the House of Usher retellings, and I just didn't like them that much, and they just did nothing for me. So I went into this book initially just like, I think I'm just going to be disappointed. But wow, this book, perfection, I think. An amazing, perfect retelling of the Fall of the House of Usher, I think. And like, just the way this book is, this is how you do a literary retelling. Okay, there's just so many literary retellings out there, and a lot of them are hit or miss, and it's like sometimes I just don't think people understand what the point of a literary retelling is. And I think this book knows exactly what the point of a literary retelling is, and it does it remarkably well, cleverly, creatively. It's like you still get what you love about the original work, but it enhances it in such a way that kind of brings something new to it, brings a new perspective and new ideas. Um, this was just amazing, and it's so short. You guys, you can just read this in a couple days. It is so incredibly short. And I was just so eager, I flip through it page after page after page. And what this book is about, other than just the Fall of the House of Usher kind of plot, and the basic plot, it follows a character named Alex Easton, who is supposed to be like the unnamed narrator from the original story, because in that original story, Poe never gives the narrator a name. You just know that he is a childhood friend of the Ushers. So yeah, in this version, that unnamed narrator is given the name of Alex Easton. They still continue to have a childhood relationship with Roderick and Madeline Usher. And what's so brilliant about this retelling, it explores why is the House of Usher falling apart exactly. And it all has something to do with this wild and crazy fungus. That's just creeping and spreading all over the house and causing the house to decay. And the fungus is also getting into like the native rabbit population, and like kind of doing this zombie-like thing with the rabbit population. It's so spooky and creepy and scary. And yeah, hence the cover with this creepy looking rabbit with all this fungus coming out of it. Seriously, oh my God, I can't stress how much I love this retelling, you guys, and I highly recommend it if you love all things Edgar Allan Poe, if you love Fall of the House of Usher. I think you will be very pleasantly surprised with this, and what T. Kingfisher does with just enhancing the world building, enhancing the characters, and yeah, really kind of giving a rhyme and reason to why the Fall of the House of Usher is occurring. So you guys, that is it for my top 5 favorite literary retellings. In the comments below, any of these books that you guys have read, or did any of them interest you, or yeah, maybe you have your own personal literary retelling that you would like to share with me that maybe I should go check out. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.